You're listening to the Surgeons of Horror podcast. The Shadows. Hello, welcome to the Surgeons of Horror podcast. Its purpose is to dissect every film, horror genre-wise, one screen legend or franchise at a time. We're throwing something a little bit new into the entry in this instance, in that we're starting to try and look at what we'd like to call, at the moment, working title is Reaction Podcasts. There's a little movie that's out at the moment. It's been out for like 2 weeks, called The Shallows. And what we are going to do is take a quick dive into that and have a little chat around what the what the subject is, whether it works in the horror genre. It's meant to be an entry into the horror genre, but does it actually live up to that mantle, and can it hold that high? I'm your host, as always, lead surgeon Paul Farrell, and I'm joined for this podcast with Nick Alford.
Hello.
Hey, buddy, welcome back.
Thank you. It's good to be back. It's hopefully keep the puns to a minimum if we can as we're going.
You always look at me like you and Ben. I can't help it, man. I can't help it.
Let's go deep.
Let's go deep. So you can tell I work in the promo areas. Hey, buddy. Yeah. So look, this movie is, as I said, it's been out for 2 weeks here in Australia. Could be a little bit longer in the UK and in the States. I guess what we want to try and do, and there will be puns in this kind of initial opener here, right?
Expected.
Is that we want to work out. I mean, you work with So Is It Any Good? So it's a kind of a similar thing. People can look up Ben's thoughts on it at the moment because he wrote up a little review on it. But this one's going to be a bit more about us having our I guess, knee-jerk reaction to it, and a little bit more detail around it. Yes, we do want to know essentially if the movie is out of its depth, if it's treading water, or if it's a bombora pioneer.
Just get them all out now.
Yeah. But we want to know, basically, like, is it any good? But is it does it stand head and shoulders above other like-minded films? Does it just kind of sink away and is lost and we could forget about it? Or is it just an okay kind of film? Is it watchable? Does it tick some boxes in that sense? When you first came out of watching it, what was your gut reaction?
Straight away, I was kind of like, yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
It wasn't blown away. I wasn't particularly wowed, but I think more and more looking back on it, it was beautifully shot.
Yeah.
Blake Lively was really good in the sense that she had to carry the whole movie by herself, pretty much.
That's right. Yeah.
Like her hubby had to do in Buried as well, same sort of thing.
Yes.
Except she had the open ocean, but she was still confined to a very small area.
Yeah, good.
So you still get that claustrophobic feeling, even though it's a massive expanse of water.
Yeah.
And she's 200 yards from the land.
Yeah. It's isolation, essentially, what we're looking at here,
Yeah.
Go on.
There were moments that sort of threw you out with some of the CGI and some of the body double stuff.
Yeah.
But if you're enjoying an action movie, there's always a stuntman. Even if you go back to, say, Arnold Schwarzenegger movies, there's always one in there that you kind of recognise.
Yeah.
It didn't throw you out the movie too much. There's moments where she starts talking to her seagull the same way Tom Hanks did.
I know. What do you think of that?
Unnecessary.
Yeah, it was a bit.
100%. I get the idea. She talked through a lot of things, saying, right now, if I sew this in here and that does this.
Yeah.
Which she doesn't need to do. We can see it happening. She doesn't need to explain, we know she's a doctor, that's all set up.
Yeah.
They prefaced everything you start. And they kind of set it up so much from the beginning that even when she gets dropped off by the person who gives her a lift there, he's like, only live around the corner.
Yeah.
Okay, that'll come into play.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
There's little sort of cues that are, unfortunately, I'm sure have we mentioned that there's going to be spoilers in this as well?
Oh, we haven't actually, but I'm imagining, so there's spoilers. But I'm imagining that because this has been 2 weeks out there, that most people would have watched this. But there are people that might be listening to this who might be looking at this as a recommendation. So forewarned, we are kind of talking about the guts of the movie a little bit, so we will be giving stuff away.
Yeah, and I think with that, the movie kind of was spoiled a bit by the trailer, or the trailers that kept on releasing. That kind of showed you some very good trailers actually, but they gave you all the key kind of plot points throughout the entire film.
Yeah.
Because you know she's going to end up on the buoy, you know, at sea, and you know she's going to end up on a rock, and you know she's going to cut a leg, and you know, and you know those guys are going to die because you see them dying in the bloody trailer.
Yeah.
So you almost feel like you're just waiting for each beat.
Yeah, so on that as well, like with the death scene, the two guys, we'll get to that down the track. But we already know that those two guys are going to die because of this setup as well. Like, forget the trailer. Like, at the very beginning, you have the kid kind of running down onto the beach. He picks up the GoPro attached to the helmet, and he kind of sees, you know, some audio visual. And so when we get to meet those two later on, we already know that they're going to die. It's a case of just when and how.
And that's what the whole movie felt like.
Yeah.
It's like when and how. Okay, when's this going to happen? And how's she going to get across there? And,
exactly.
And then there are some nice little flourishes and things they throw in, like adding jellyfish and ultimately, I won't go into it just in case, but ultimately how... Oh, do I say it? Ultimately, the final fight between her and the shark.
Yeah.
Which is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Because when it happens, you're sort of thinking, oh, wow, that's really cool. I've never thought that. She's so smart. And then you kind of think, it's just dumb. It's just a bit dumb. When you're caught up in the moment, you're like, wow, that's ingenious.
Yeah.
And the reason why it's so clever is because it couldn't happen. You know?
Yes.
I mean, it could, but again, the threat of this shark is so casual.
Yeah.
It feels like the shark's not even bothered. Like, it floats around for a while and then...
Don't look bothered.
Well, exactly. When it's in the water, it kind of... Like I mentioned in the previous podcast that the Jaws shark is quite slow.
Yeah.
In this one, it's pretty much the same kind of pace.
Yeah.
It doesn't get... It's not given a chance to rush it or anything too often. So yeah, there's a building threat when the tide's coming high and the water's surrounding the rock. So that's a great moment because you're like, okay, well, what next?
Yeah.
But you know she makes it safely onto the buoy because you've seen the trailer.
Yes, that's right. So like, what's so does the shark feel threatening at all because of that, or do you feel like it's because like you said, we're waiting for the next beat to kind of occur, that it rips away any kind of
tension. Yeah. And that's the one thing for me. There wasn't that tension. There were kind of moments where there's like a really close thing where her leg's in the water and suddenly she pulls her leg out of the water just in time.
Yeah.
But that's nothing new.
No, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
But I think that the concept and the premise itself was good and it was well shot. I'm in no rush to go and watch it again. No, that's the thing. Like, so, what for me, I guess I haven't actually mentioned my gut reaction. I kind of guess was a similar thing. I kind of was a little bit deflated by it. That's not to say it turned me off, because it didn't turn me off. I think there's enough in there to keep you watching, as far as the movie is concerned. But and I definitely was a bit surprised by Blake's performance. It does need a performance that relies on kind of keeping you watching, because she's holding that film up, like you said, on her own. And I was surprised by how actually good she was and believable she was in that character. I definitely had an opinion of her before going into the movie, so hence why I was a bit kind of, okay, you have got talent there. She was quite good in The Town.
No, we had that conversation, didn't you? Like, she was good in The Town. I forgot she was in that, and I said about The Savages as well. She was in, and she was good in that too. So I don't know why I kind of keep having this association that she's just not going to bring her A game, because she clearly is talented. And
maybe she's too attractive to be talented. Is that the problem you're thinking?
I don't know. I'm not going to go there, man.
No, I wouldn't.
So go on.
I was going to say it's very hard for her as well, having seen some of the behind the scenes footage, because there's a lot of this movie shot on green screen, blue screen actually.
Yes.
And to be a performer by yourself, trying to hold up a scene, pretending your legs torn apart and stitching together while there's a shark in the water. I mean, that's a lot to take on board just by yourself. Yeah. With no one else to play off and no acting break, if you like.
Yeah. Yeah, it was definitely an interesting point in it. So look, let's move up slightly away from our reaction to the movie after watching it. And this is it's billing itself as a shark killer movie. There's been plenty of those, hence why we did our Jaws franchise discussion as well. There's been a lot more to that canon as well. I think I mentioned in the Jaws franchise, it's of nature striking back, it's probably the most explored territory in our horror film genre. But where does this sit in that kind of pedigree, do you think?
I wouldn't put it almost anywhere near horror, to be honest.
Yeah.
I'd put it under thriller.
Yeah.
Action thriller. Because I wasn't scared.
No.
There was a moment where Ben actually jumped a bit. No, it was, sorry.
Yeah, but he's a wuss. So.
No, cool. To be fair to Ben, actually, it was the guy in front of him who jumped up.
Okay.
And
Ben jumped at the guy jumping.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Maybe he didn't. Maybe I'm just thinking of that guy. Now I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
But it was enough to send this guy physically out of his seat.
Oh, wow.
Which I was quite surprised by.
At what point was that?
It was like the CGI shark coming out of the water that you kind of know is happening.
Yeah, okay.
He obviously hadn't seen the trailer.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to mention. That's all I'm going to mention of the trailer.
Yeah, okay, all right. So, so following on from what you were saying about, that it felt more of an action thriller, like it's a survival film essentially. Like this is what we're watching. It's a battle of wits and the survival kind of genre that it kind of falls into. Horror-wise, there was nothing there for me that kind of lifted it into a horror genre note. No. Unfortunately. When I look at where it lines up, though, like with shark kind of movies, like Jaws will always be that kind of mantle to try and reach. Many people have tried and fallen. There've been some kind of standouts among that. Like I think I mentioned in the Jaws franchise discussions, like you've got The Reef and Open Water that have kind of danced around with that being left adrift, and fighting against sharks and stuff. You've got that Sharknado franchise that's also been there, which has kind of done that whole B-movie shock factor, and it owns that in its own way. But nothing's really kind of ever hit that kind of note, I think, and yet people do keep coming back. Why do people keep coming back?
To this style of genre? This
to the shark killer kind of franchise stuff, notion.
I think it's, for me, it's the same with Jaws. It's the vulnerability that you have against nature.
Yeah.
Like if you're there in like saying, just your speedos, and there's just nothing around you at all. There's no escape.
Yeah.
It's essentially like being in a massive room with a tiger.
Yeah.
So
that's right.
There's nothing you can do.
So where does The Shallow go wrong in that sense? Then why does it not hit the right notes?
I'm not sure if it's even trying.
Yeah.
To be honest, I don't think it. There were a couple of, like I say, intense moments, but there was nothing, not many jump scares.
No.
It felt more like a girl on her journey. It felt more like a drama with her trying to discover her, where her mother...
Or re-find herself, essentially, isn't it? Because
and
she's lost.
Understand her mother more.
Yeah, that's right.
Which is a nice story, so you do care about her.
Yeah, and so I think in that sense there's enough... So let's talk about maybe what the film does right, because there is enough character background there to make her believable. Her performance obviously strengthens that. And they've obviously put a lot of attention into why she's suddenly kind of cast adrift, and sorry, pun again, but why she is. I do. I don't mean to. But you know what I mean. Like, so she's on a journey of self-discovery, and in doing so is forced to survive this ordeal, and in doing so kind of find herself again. I mean, it's an age-old story. People have done it countless times, but in this instance, I think because of the background setup is done nicely. And, that throwaway kind of phone call moment prior to where everything happens, where she's talking to her sister and her father, kind of cements that a little bit.
Yeah.
So I think I thought that was kind of handled really well. What about the cinematography is something else that you kind of mentioned at the beginning too. There's some beautiful shots in this. Yeah,
it's lovely, and it's some nice sweeping shots and big wide shots to see to help give you that sense of aloneness, I guess, feeling of being stranded, which is great. And there's lovely shots to see, but sometimes, often, best phrases, it takes you out of it a bit when suddenly there's a lot of integrated advertising within the movie.
Yeah. With
her being on her Sony phone quite a lot, and there's a nice device where it appears on screen and you can see the picture, so like, okay, I get that, that's quite nicely done. But you see the Sony advertisement, and then suddenly there's a countdown all the time to the tide coming in out, or constantly like trying to remember, okay, was that 5 hours now? Where are we at? But you're reminded by this lovely little Casio watch that takes up half the screen.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that's right.
I understand that's the state of movies at the moment, but you know.
Yeah, I was going to touch on that, and I guess I don't know if there's much more you can say around that subject, but like, did you feel that took you out of the environment a little bit, or do you think it was a clever way of including modern technology in a way of how modern day audiences do kind of, you know, there are people that are probably watching this movie who are also kind of doing other things on their own devices. Like does that just kind of complement what young people are doing anyway? Like,
no, you're right. That's a fair point. I think it's definitely the way movies going forward that we're going to see more and more of it, and we're just going to have to lump it. And seriously, I think that's what. I mean, it's been going on forever, but now even more so. As long as it's relevant.
Yeah.
You know, as long as it's not like a McDonald's on the middle of the beach or something like that. It's not nothing too gratuitous.
So in this, so if we look at it just the shallows alone, and does, when they introduce those kind of elements to it, does it complement the story or does it take you away?
It does. I think the Casio watch was a bit unnecessary, because if you're telling me what time it is, that's great.
Yeah.
And I understand you're trying to put it in the feel of a waterproof watch.
Yeah.
And the way the phone worked was a good device because it showed video of who she was talking to, so that made sense.
Yeah, of course. So like the next bit I just wanted to talk about, so before we're kind of drawing towards an end, what were the most notable moments, do you think, from the movie that you took away?
Blake Lively Connect.
Yeah,
there's not too much I could take away from the movie, really. It's a bit of fun.
Yeah.
Watch it on a Friday night with a beer. Going with relatively low expectations, and you'll be entertained.
Yeah, cool.
It's not boring. There's some silly moments in it, and there's some bits of fun. So
yeah, you're right. I mean, it's definitely a watchable movie. Like, you're right. It's not. I mean, you know, we're in. You're probably the same. I still kind of. I come from an old school background where I do love that immersive cinema experience. I still kind of crave that and going to do that. Having said that, this isn't a movie that I would recommend people go out and watch in a cinema.
No.
Watch it by whatever means you deem necessary, in the comfort of your own home, or what you will. But I do kind of think, like, if you're kind of surfing around looking for something, I'm so sorry. If you're, like, it's really hard to not talk with puns, but if you're looking around for anything to watch, and you want to pass a good Friday night with a couple of your mates, it's a good. So it kind of definitely delivers on that note, and it's a short movie too. It's not a long movie. It's like 80 odd minutes. It's not a full hour and a half either. It's not.
Yeah, it didn't feel particularly long.
No, but I don't think it needed to. I think it kind of served its merits. So my last couple of questions, Leno, like, do you think it had a decent enough pulse to it, or?
When you say pulse, what sort of thing do you mean? Just like the actual.
Well, like, so we were talking about the beats and the rhythm of the piece, right? And we were saying it fell short as far as horror is concerned, but as far as a storytelling exercise, does it have the right kind of beats to kind of push you forward and keep you hooked into this?
It sort of does, and without knowing all the beats beforehand, I think I'd have a better opinion of the movie.
Yeah.
There are moments where it feels like it's trying to fill in gaps with the seagull, and then she puts the seagull out on a little board. And actually thought that was a great idea, because maybe that will attract the shark and she can swim the opposite direction.
Yeah.
But it felt like it was quite a soft movie in that respect. She wasn't going to be that brutal.
No. I did wonder if she was going to eat the bird at one point, because she tried eating the crab.
Yeah.
And then,
because you've got to do what you're
Yeah.
But there were moments in the audience was laughing when they shouldn't have been laughing.
Right, yeah.
There's little things like that. And,
So, here's the thing, right? Was the one thing we didn't mention is at the very beginning, there's a big whale carcass that's floating out just outside.
Yeah, that felt really random.
Yeah,
that felt really odd.
So, but was that used as a device just for the reason why a shark would have been lured into the bay, because it's food it could feed off? Or do you think, or was it?
I guess so. I mean, that's one of the main reasons probably, and obviously from a filmmaker's point of view, it would have just been to give us something else to sit on.
Yeah, well, that's right. Was that purely what it was, or
that's what it felt like? Yeah. Obviously, it is a good excuse to have the shark there because it is feeding on the whale, but it's not feeding on the whale. It would rather pick at Blake Lively than chew on this massive whale that's beached.
Yeah, which is odd, isn't it? Like there's free food there.
Yeah,
going up for grabs, and he'd rather go for
fresh meat.
Yeah.
But it felt like the shark wasn't really a massive part of this film for me.
No, it wasn't. Secondary to Blake.
Yeah,
essentially, because it's
and then the scenery,
and
then probably the shark after that.
Yeah,
because I never felt the shark was a threat.
Without giving too much away, in case people, because we are talking spoilers, but we the ending scene, like we kind of glossed around the fact that it's not that believable of an ending.
It's a bit dumb.
Does that leave you a bit?
Yeah, you don't feel as satisfied.
No,
but it's fine. Like as long as it dies in a gruesome way and she's safe, then all's right with the world. That's what I mean. That it's kind of soft.
Okay.
Like her legs obviously injured and things like that. So then that's why I think it's not a horror as such.
No, I completely agree.
She maybe lost her leg or even died. And one of the other guys had carried on the story, or the little kid was the only one left.
Yeah, I think that's probably like because we are seeing it from one POV. Like you don't that's why the sense of threat with the shark is lost because we do see there are deaths in this. Don't get us wrong, there are death scenes in it, but you're not attached to any of the characters that are.
In fact, you want one of them to die.
Yeah.
The guy on the beach. You know what it's going to do.
Yeah.
And then
he probably has the best death in it, although although even that was that where people were laughing, maybe
that's probably it.
Yeah. Anyway, so final verdict. What do we reckon? Does it? I reckon this is middle of the road. It's not fantastically out of this world. Blow your mind. Recommendations around, but neither is it a woeful crap movie. That isn't worth your time.
Yeah, it's been kind of given the moniker of a B movie.
Yeah.
But it got like 70. It cost like 17 million. So it's not really a B movie, and I think it's already made back 3 times that. Apparently.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
Which is great because Ghostbusters hasn't even made back any of its budget yet.
That's crazy.
And that was again another film with strong female characters.
Yeah.
And this is good as well because she's a doctor. You can justify the fact that she can actually sew her own legs.
Is she believable as a doctor?
Not particularly.
No.
Just I don't know why she isn't believable as a doctor, but I mean she's a
student. Yeah, she's still learning. So I guess that you can kind of get away with.
Yeah. So why not? But at least that way it's set up the premise like in any good horror movie.
Yeah.
Oh, I used to be ex-military.
Yeah. That's right.
At least that way when she can help herself out later on, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Whereas if she was just a normal punter and it's like, oh look, I've suddenly learned how to sew my leg together.
Yeah.
Oh, great. I think.
What did you do on your holidays?
Yeah. But in that sort of class of movies, I'd put it middle, upper middle. Maybe,
Yeah. I guess you're right. It leans more towards being on the good than terrible.
That's it.
As far as this needle is concerned. I kind of agree. I kind of came out of it going, that was kind of a fun movie, but I wouldn't go shouting to the top of the hills about recommending it. Like I said, at a loss for something to watch. Yeah, put it on. Give it a go. My last little word on it is shark bands. Have you heard of shark bands?
No.
So it's like a device that you can strap on that keeps sharks away.
Yeah, that's the one.
When are we going to see a character like this in a shark killer movie that can just swim out and just go, fuck the sharks, they're going to attack me?
That'll be the next year. It'll be sponsored by Shark Band.
That's it, exactly.
With Casio and Sony on board.
You'll have this kind of hero character going, yeah, man. And he'll just go and punch the shark. Maybe that's what's going to happen with that, the movie I was telling you about with Jason Statham in the movie called Meg.
Oh, God.
Is he going to go out in their shark bands and totally try and attack them?
That film, Jason Statham?
It's like prehistoric shark.
Oh, that's it. The Megalodon,
yeah. All right, look, on that weird note, I think that's us. Thanks again for your time, Nick. And as always, those listeners out there, thanks for tuning in and listening to us kind of preamble and talk shit over one of our much-loved genres, horror, and in the film universe. That's it for me, Paul Farrell and Nick.
See you guys.
Till next time. Goodbye.
See you.
You're listening to the Surgeons of Horror podcast, The Shallows. Music supplied by Peter Nezik. For more discussions or podcasts, head over to surgeonsofhorror.com or head over to our Facebook and Twitter sites for the latest news and updates.